Hello everyone, it's Tacker72 here, and for today, the Mario series is very known for its very recognizable and iconic characters. You really cannot go on a discussion of talking about anything video game related without mentioning somebody from Mario, and really you can see a lot of recognizable names and faces throughout the franchise, but no other character has gotten much more of a big reputation than more recently Pauline. Pauline at first was such an interesting character, if anything a really rich history from the start of her career as a character from the Mario franchise, and recently throughout the past 7 to 8 years she's been making a name for herself. But really what makes Pauline such a great character today was that back then she wasn't really much of a character. She was more so a forgotten one at that, a typical damsel in distress. But in this video I just kind of want to be going through all of the history of Pauline's character as a whole and how she went from basically being a pretty niche character and a typical damsel in distress all the way to becoming a huge icon and part of the main Mario cast thanks to the Switch era. And I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get started with Pauline's appearance first debuts back in 1981 in the original Donkey Kong arcade game, where she acts as the main role of the typical damsel in distress. When Shigeru Miyamoto was designing the game and also the character designs, he was inspired by a few characters, notably being Popeye, Bluto, and for Pauline specifically Olive Oil. When he was designing the character, you can see that Pauline had a much clearer, different design, with the only notable thing that the fans can recognize is the red cocktail dress, at this time having a much more blonde hair, and that's all I could really say. Though funny enough is that she was never initially named Pauline. Instead, Pauline was called Lady. When Pauline was being renamed for the character we know now, apparently she was named after the manager of Nintendo at the time, the warehouse manager being Don James, whose wife's name was Polly James. But why exactly was it Pauline to be exact? Well, that's because the president of Nintendo at the time, Minoru Arakawa, had mistakenly thought that James' wife was named Pauline James instead of Polly James. So that right there really shows that this character, despite being very simple in the role she was in the original, had a much clearer distinction than what the other characters were. However, in the American promotion of the Donkey Kong arcade game, there was another designer that was making the artwork for the arcade game, that being Xavier Leslie Carbarga. He was coincidentally also inspired by the Popeye characters, notably Popeye and Bluto, but for the sake of Pauline's design, where we get to see the iconic artwork that many fans can recognize, Pauline's design was more inspired by Betty Boop, another cartoon character icon, albeit with a much smaller head. After that design was settled, Pauline would appear a few more times in the next couple Donkey Kong arcade titles, with the exception of Donkey Kong Jr., as he doesn't appear in that one, but otherwise, really, Pauline would become a bit of a small character, as basically acted as the damsel in distress for Mario for the next few years. Then there was also her other appearances outside of games, notably the Saturday Supercade. I didn't really know this was an actual show, and when I had to look it up for this video, I found some interesting information between the show, notably the fact that Mario and Pauline, as well as Donkey Kong, appear in this one, where Pauline acts more as Mario's assistant, and Donkey Kong does occasionally appear in some episodes, and that's all I can really say in terms of my research of the show. She would also appear in the Japanese manga Super Mario Kun, where she had a much more different design, kind of almost reminiscent of Shigeru Miyamoto's Japanese design of the character, which is really interesting. But then came 1994, where we got to see the release of the Donkey Kong game, which fully revitalizes the entire franchise by having a brand new take of the original arcade title, having a total of 97 levels, and Pauline having a much more clearer appearance. This time their design is now fully the one that a lot of fans can recognize. This time losing the blonde hair, having gold earrings, brown hair, and having blue eyes. The only thing that really didn't change was her red cocktail dress. Otherwise, she does still play the typical damsel in distress that in the original Donkey Kong 1994 game. However, after that game was released, Pauline Pauline had kind of gotten a bit of a long absence. Yeah, sure, she does kind of appear occasionally outside of the games, and the reason was really because of the Mario and Donkey Kong franchise. Mario and Donkey Kong both have their own separate games, and with Nintendo now fully focusing on Mario as a whole, especially when they kept introducing much more characters later on, Peach being the more typical damsel in distress and love interest of Mario, and Bowser being the main antagonist of the Mario franchise, while Donkey Kong had his own revitalization with the game Donkey Kong Country, with Cranky Kong being confirmed to be the original version of Donkey Kong in the arcade game. The only time that Pauline was ever mentioned was in this one specific panel where Cranky Kong reminisces of when he was kidnapping Pauline, and then she basically kicked him, stating that one day they will get even. Now, throughout her years of absence, Mario and Donkey Kong fully had their series evolved, introducing new games, new characters, new mechanics and all, but in March of 2004, we got ourselves the release of the Game Boy Advance title, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which fully changes a lot of the game's mechanics and is 10 years after the release of the 1994 title. And all I could say is that they really did a lot with this game, and especially changing the mechanics from a typical platformer to a mix of puzzle and platformer at the same time. Though what really makes this game stand out is mostly known for its very interesting cutscenes. 20 years later, we did get the remake version in the Nintendo Switch, and it fully improves upon the quality of life standards of Mario vs. Donkey Kong as a whole. But while Pauline didn't really appear in this game, in 2006, we did get the release of Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2, March of the Minis, where Pauline fully reprises her role and has to return after 12 years of absence. Though, to really be fair, she doesn't really do much in this game other than the fact that she does return as the same damsel in distress to Mario, where she gets captured by Donkey Kong during like one of Mario's store openings, and this would have happened like a few more times in the franchise with games like Tippin' Stars, Minis March Again, etc, etc. All in all, Pauline didn't really have much to do in this game other than the fact that she did return, but otherwise there really isn't much you can say. Then in the 2010s, the franchise started to get into a weird turn, and really in terms of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong franchise in general, it wasn't bad per se. The sales were pretty interesting. Only the one that had very low sales was Tippin' Stars, but otherwise, in the end of the day, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong franchise is simply just a niche series. Compared to titles such as Mario Galaxy or the new Super Mario Bros. Titles, you can tell that there really isn't much you can say about this game series in general, and especially towards Pauline, who was more so just a character who returns with not much of a character. And during the 2010s, it was such a weird time for the franchise with releases like Mario Tennis Ultra Smash or something. But thankfully, things started to change when 2017 started to come around with the release of the Nintendo Switch. On October 27, 2017, Super Mario Odyssey will release on the Nintendo Switch, and it would become one of Nintendo's most critically acclaimed and well-received games in a long time. A 3D Mario game at that, to really be honest. And really, not only was it a huge success, it also debuted the main appearance of Pauline in a Mario game. And not just any Mario game, a 3D Mario game at that. And really, Pauline's appearance is so interesting to say the least. Now, in retrospect, before Odyssey was being released to the public, this game was highly anticipated to so many fans. After all, it has been over a decade since we had a genuine 3D Mario Collectathon that wasn't games like 3D Land or 3D World. Not that it wasn't bad or anything, it's just that those particular games weren't exactly as the same feeling as with the typical Collectathon sandbox feeling that we had since Mario Galaxy. And seeing this game really getting well received was so great. But not only was Pauline's debut such a major turning point to the character, but she debuts as a major plus supporting character in Odyssey, coming in as the mayor of a city known as New Donk City. Now, apparently her appearance actually had a reason. According to Yoshiaki Koizumi, the game's producer, he explains that the dev team wanted to add a character that is very familiar to the fans into a new and strange setting, which I guess it does make sense when you think about it. When you have a city known as New Donk City, fully based off from Donkey Kong related stuff, it really makes sense for Pauline to be a character in this one. one and to be the mayor of that and of that fact. And really, not only is she there just to be, you know, for a glorified fan service, she was also there for most of the game of the city's story, mostly being related to the game's moons that was shown in Metro Kingdom, and really helps all the way to the kingdom's finale, being none other than Jump Up Superstar, the game's main highlight to so many fans. Jump Up Superstar to this day is one of the most iconic songs in the Mario franchise, and while it isn't as iconic as the original Mario Bros theme, since that theme came way before Jump Up Superstar and is way more iconic than what we have, you cannot deny that this song is not only amazing, catchy, and really great, it also is iconic as well. I mean, when you look up this song title alone, you can see there's so many videos that had millions of views. Like, you got the Living Tombstone remix of the song, the official song itself has over millions, has over 57 million views. You can see that this was such an amazing song when you hear it the first time. I mean, even in the official trailer, you can see that they put a small tidbit of the song by itself, which really shows how much this song was so beloved by not only the devs but the fans itself. And it's all thanks to the voice provided for Pauline, being Kate Higgins, who previously voiced characters such as, you know, Sakura from Naruto, and funny enough also Tails' previous voice actress as well, though before she was even replaced for Colleen. Funny enough that Pauline also voices Ino for Naruto, so that right there is kind of a funny coincidence. But not only does she voices Pauline, she is actually a singer and a jazz pianist in real life, so it really makes this song all in all authentic. And while Pauline's debut was such a great deal for so many fans, this would be the start of her new turning point as part of the main cast for Mario, first debuting in Mario Tennis Aces, which really surprised so many people because a lot of fans thought that Pauline was going to be a one-time thing. But it seems that after this a huge success of Mario Odyssey, Nintendo really wanted to push the agenda of making Pauline more of a mainstay character, and it seems that they are going to be pushing that trend later on throughout the next 7 years of the Switch's lifetime. Afterwards, she would appear in Mario Kart Tour as a playable character, alongside a few outfits that are pretty cool and well designed, and I am disappointed that it's not in Mario Kart World, by the way. Then she also appears as a playable character in Mario Golf Super Rush, and while that game was rushed, it was great to see Pauline debut in a spin-off Mario game. She would also appear as a free DLC character in Mario Golf and Mario Strikers Battle League. She would also appear as a Smash Bros. Spirit in Smash Bros. Ultimate, which a lot of fans stated that is one of the hardest spirit fights in the entire game, which I kind of disagree in my opinion. Then she also made a few second cameo in the Mario Bros. Movie as the mayor of the town that it's based on. Then there's also her debut as a playable character in Super Mario Party Jamboree, making her debut in the Mario Party franchise. But I think her most notable appearance in the Switch era was her main DLC appearance as one of the main playable characters in the last wave of the Booster Course Pass, alongside Diddy Kong and Funky Kong. And afterwards, in the Switch 2 era, we then get to see the debut of Pauline in Mario Kart World as a mainstay character, and then as of June of this year, the upcoming Donkey Kong Bonanza will feature Pauline, this time as a young girl, and would be Donkey Kong's partner throughout the entire game in the upcoming Donkey Kong Bonanza, where she acts as a more of a singer and also acts as a supporter to DK as a whole. This right here really shows that Nintendo is fully committed to making Pauline not just an icon, but a part of the main cast of Mario franchises, becoming from simply a simple damsel in distress all the way to an icon character that we know today. In conclusion, it really shows how much Pauline has evolved over time as a character, going from a typical damsel in distress from the 1980s, mostly getting kidnapped by a giant gorilla, to now becoming one of the main icons of the Mario franchise, and basically the cast in general. It is really nice to see more female characters of the Mario franchise as well, given that we mostly been stuck with Peach, Daisy, and Rosalina, and I guess Toadette to some cases, but really it shows that Nintendo is willing to change and basically give a lot more opportunities for characters that have been forgotten at first, but maybe at some point in the future will return and become a mainstay. Now, it's not really guaranteed since Pauline is a special case, but otherwise it really shows how much she has evolved over time throughout the years, and I can't wait to see what else Nintendo has in store for her in the future in the Switch 2 era. So far, Mario Kart World is already just a start, and DK Bonanza would be one of her biggest roles yet. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just also want to say thank you to the people who was behind the Super Mario Wiki, as I've gotten a lot of information and trivia that was behind Pauline's development, her character, and all the information, as well as some of the references that I've shown throughout the video. And really, I only wanted to make this video pretty short as well, since I didn't include all of the information that was from her wiki page, but otherwise this is a lot of information that I wanted to get over. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you all think of the evolution of Pauline as a character. Do you think she is truly worthy of being part of the main Mario cast? If so, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And so with that, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more videos, follow my Twitter, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember this, once legend, always legend.